Hello and welcome back to Off the Post. In today's episode, we'll be ranking the deadline day deals. But before that, as always, please like, comment, subscribe. It's very much appreciated and it goes a long way in helping me build a small community on my channel, okay? We've recently just hit 216 subscribers and I just want to say a massive thank you for all you guys showing support my recent videos, all the likes and the comments on social media as well. It definitely doesn't go unnoticed. But yeah, okay, we've got 9 players to rank in total, 5 categories as well, in the likes of Unbelievable Jeff, Amazing Deal, Decent Business, Meh, and Not For Me. We've done this a few times now, so you should recognise, the categories and whatnot and all that sort of good stuff. But let's just get straight into the first player on this list, okay? We've got Samuel Chukwuemeka going to Fulham, okay? Now, for me, I do really like this player. You know, he's been heavily linked to multiple Premier League clubs over the recent 5 years, ever since he broke through at Villarreal, really, wasn't he? And he did score a lot of good goals back in the day, didn't he, for Villarreal? He scored 37 goals and I want to say 29 assists in 209 games for Villarreal back in the day, which got his big money move to AC Milan. And he sort of hasn't looked back since joining AC Milan, has he? Samuel Chukwuemeka. For me, I do really like him as a player on that right hand side. He's got the pace, he's got the power, he's got the ability to beat his man as well on that right hand side. And for me, it definitely does add that much needed squad depth to what Fulham needs. So overall, I think it is decent business. That's what I'm going to put him in that category, okay? I really do like the signing of Samuel Chukwuemeka because it adds that much needed squad depth to Fulham's side. It adds that versatility in the attack as well. I'm pretty sure he can play on the left and up front if needs be. And for me, obviously they've only signed him on a season-long loan now, so we'll have to wait and see what he does this season to see if he signs for them permanently next year. But either way, I think that's what sort of Fulham needs on that sort of added addition on that right-hand side, because they've got, Emil Smith Rowe on that left-hand side. They've got Alex Iwobi. They've got all these different types of players, but on the right-hand side now, they don't really have anybody else on there. But they need someone to, lock in that position on that right-hand side for me. And that's where I feel like Samuel Chukwuemeka can sort of make a name for himself in the Premier League for Fulham. But anyways, let's move on now to our second player on this list. It is Zinchenko, moving to Nottingham Forest on a season-long loan as well, I'm pretty sure. And for me, I don't really know about this one. I might put him in Not For Me just because they've signed so many players this season, Nottingham Forest, haven't they? Don't get me wrong, they've added some fantastic players into the overall squad depth, but how much minutes will Zinchenko actually get? Because when you've got a lot of players ahead of you in there, I don't think Zinchenko is going to come in and be a main starter for Nottingham Forest, okay? So I think this is a Not For Me. Again, yes, he can play in that midfield position, so there is that versatility in between, him being a left back and him being a centre mid. But is he going to get much minutes in that Nottingham Forest side? I just don't think he is. That's just my personal opinion, okay? Anyways, moving over now to, the next player on this list. We've got Jadon Sancho moving to Aston Villa on a season-long loan. Now, for me, I'm a little bit unsure about this transfer again, just because when you think about Jadon Sancho as the player, he's excellent. At the same time, he's very also hit and miss. Don't get me wrong, when he was at Chelsea last season, I feel like people were a little bit harsh to judge his season because he did get a good amount of goals and assists last season. He did. I'm not saying he didn't. However, it's just the whole thing around his attitude that's been reported on in the media and all this sort of stuff. We've seen it with Manchester United, him sort of not wanting to play for them at times and all this sort of good stuff. Him sort of, coming out and saying some weird stuff about the club and all this sort of weird stuff. I just don't know whether or not he'll fit into that Unai Emery style of play, how he wants to play, if that makes sense. Obviously, I think something came out on social media yesterday that I think Marcus Rashford might have convinced him to join Aston Villa because of the welcome reception he received from the Aston Villa fans, and I feel like this would be a good move for Jadon Sancho because he can play on the left, he can play on the right. I don't see why he probably couldn't play in that number 10 position as well. It does add, that much needed squad depth to Aston Villa's side as well, especially when you think about the start of the season they've had. They've been absolutely awful, haven't they, Aston Villa? And I feel like, this is a really 50-50 deal for me. It can either work out or it could be really bad. So I'm going to put him in there just because I'm not too sure about the deal. I feel like it could go either way. If he could either score 10 to 15 goals or he could just sit on the bench for like the rest of the season. I just don't know. It could be a Philip Coutinho sort of deal where he comes in for big money or he could sort of, be a Marcus Rashford who has like who has a half decent season. Don't get me wrong. I feel like when you compare when people were sort of saying how well Marcus Rashford did last season, I feel like he was a little bit overhyped because for me he only scored 2 goals against Preston and had a good performance against PSG in the Champions League. Other than that, he didn't really do that much. So I feel like a lot of Premier League fans will slate Jadon Sancho just because like he's had some problems with previous clubs in the past, or they'll overhype him because they want to see him succeed. So for me, either way, we'll have to wait and see what he does this season. Hopefully, Unai Emery can be the manager to get him back to his best, because he was a fantastic player back in the day for Borussia Dortmund, wasn't he? That's why he got his big money move to Manchester United. So hopefully Unai Emery can unlock his skills, because we know Unai Emery is the master of getting the best out of those like misfits sort of players, if you like. Okay, moving over to the fourth player on this list, we've got Gutrada, the right back from RB Leipzig. Okay, for me, absolutely incredible business, joining on a season-long loan to Sunderland. For me, I can't believe it, because I think they've got a option to buy as well, I'm pretty sure. And this guy at right back, I'm very jealous of this signing, just because I feel like he's a player that Aston Villa could need in that right back position. For me, he elevates that defence for Sunderland, and I really do feel like now they've got a solid defence, solid midfield and solid attack. I really do feel like Sunderland are going to do absolutely amazing in the Premier League now, just because I feel like this defensive option elevates the whole defence for me, and I really do feel like it's a good deal. I think they've got an option to buy for like 23 million or something like that, so I'm putting in an amazing deal for me. I absolutely rate this signing so heavily, and I really do feel like he'll come into that Premier League and he'll adapt so quickly, and he'll provide those clean sheets for Sunderland, and I reckon he's going to have a good season for them, so watch out for him this season. Okay, moving over now to the fifth player on this list. It's Victor Lindelof joining Aston Villa on a free deal. Okay, for me, again, it's a decent deal, because when you think about Aston Villa, they definitely need a fourth choice centre back, because we was going into the season with 3 centre backs. You just can't really do it. Obviously, you've got a young player in Bogarde, the Dutch defender, who for me is very hit and miss in defence. For me, he's not really a main centre back in there. I feel like he's better on that right back position and in CDM as well. So for me, we definitely needed a fourth choice centre back. And over the years for Manchester United, Victor Lindelof, he's been all right, very hit and miss, has a few decent games, has a few bad games as well. So when you talk to Man United fans, if you like, I feel like they'll probably give you a bit of a, I want to say, probably a bad opinion on the player, just because he's had some bad moments at Manchester United, and when you think about the level of Manchester United, probably isn't at that level anymore. But for Aston Villa, I feel like he can come in and probably play the cup competitions, probably play against the lower league sides as well. Again, I might just put in decent business, because he's not going to get that much game time ahead of the likes of Pau Torres, Ezri Konsa, Tyrone Mings. So overall, signing on a free contract, okay, you can't really dislike the player, can you? I feel like he'd be alright. Okay, moving over to the next player on this list, we've got Pierre Hippier, hopefully I've said his name right, from Bayer Leverkusen, joining Arsenal on a season-long loan with a permanent option to buy for 45 million next season. For me, I really do like this transfer. Absolutely incredible centre-back in there. I'm pretty sure he can play right back as well, potentially. But I feel like, when you talk about defenders, Arsenal probably do need a third choice centre-back to sort of up the levels of their main centre backs. The other two, obviously, I don't think Hippier is going to replace the likes of Gabriel and William Saliba anytime soon, so it might be difficult for him to come in straight away. However, when you're playing those cup competitions, when you're playing those lower league sides as well, it'll help out, give the other two main centre backs a rest in the Premier League. So for me, I think it's an amazing deal. Yes, you've got to think this out. 45 million is a lot of money, but for that player, I feel like he's definitely worth it. So for me, I really do like him, and what he's done for Bayer Leverkusen over recent seasons, obviously helping them win the Bundesliga a few seasons ago under Xabi Alonso, is absolutely amazing. And for me, I think he's the perfect player to be that backup with. They've also signed that Spanish centre back, didn't they, from Valencia, I'm pretty sure. So is it Mascara or something like that? I probably pronounced his name wrong, but he's also looks half decent coming off the bench. I think last game in game week 3, I'm pretty sure he came on, didn't he? So he looks also impressive, but I feel like Pierre Hippier is a level above him, and I don't think he's going to look out of place when he comes in for William Saliba or Gabriel either. So yeah, that's it for me. Okay, moving on now to the last 3 players on this list. We've got Wizard joining Newcastle for 55 million. Okay, yes, it was only joined for 50 million with 5 million add-ons, if you like. So from that point of view, either way that you look at it, Newcastle have overpaid for him, didn't they? They massively overpaid for Wissa. And when you think about him at the age of 29, I don't feel like there's much resale value on the player. I don't know how well he's going to perform at Newcastle because he's only really had 1.5 good seasons for Brentford, hasn't he? And you could say to yourself, did sort of Mbeumo get the best out of Wissa? We're not too sure. Maybe it's a little bit harsh, harshly rating Wissa as a striker because he is good. He has come in for Ivan Toney, if you like, and sort of replaced him and done a good job for Brentford over the years. However, I'm just not too sure how quickly he will adapt to that Newcastle side. And for me, I feel like it is good business because obviously losing Alexander Isak, which we'll all get on about in a minute, right? It is sort of good to replace him. And they also signed a German youngster striker called Watermaid, who's like 6'7" or something. He's like the second coming of Peter Crouch, if you like, okay? When you go into a Champions League season with a youngster, okay, you need more of an experienced head in there, and I feel like that's what Wissa offers you in abundance. So for me, having those two strikers in Wissa and Watermaid, I really do feel like that's good business overall to replace Alexander Isak. It's just so frustrating that it took so long in the transfer window. It literally took to deadline day, didn't it, to get those transfers over the line, and I just can't believe it. But for me, overall, I think it is. I might put it in. Oh, I like it. I like the player. Again, I might just put him in there just because if you think about him, he's 29 years old. There's not much resale value on him. And also, if you think about it, he's going to be missing in January because of the AFCON competition, okay? Obviously, he's going to be playing in that, so it's going to be difficult when when you only have one main striker in there, so it's going to be difficult for what Newcastle want to sort of achieve this season, trying to fight for those Champions League positions once again. Either way, I feel like it's okay business, but when you think about it as a whole, I'm not too sure, and that's why it's going in there for me. Okay, moving on now to the next player on this list. It is Harvey Elliott joining Aston Villa on a season-long loan with an obligation to buy for 35 million the season after, okay? Now, for me, I think this is probably one of the best transfers of the whole season, okay, and it happened on deadline day. I am so excited about this player because when we've been linked with the likes of Marco Asensio, Lucas Paqueta, I really do feel like Harvey Elliott is the main player in there. I feel like he's the best player out of the three, okay? I'm not just saying that because we signed him, I'm saying that because of what he's shown for Liverpool over the recent seasons, okay? He's mainly a right winger, isn't he? But he can also play in that sort of number 8, number 10 position as well, if you like. And even though what he's done for, England under 21s, he's so determined, he's so willing to win, he's so willing to get goals and assists for the team to sort of help him out and help him win the game. For me, I really do like Harvey Elliott. He's an amazing player. And when you think about Harvey Elliott, he's already excellent already as a player. He's absolutely amazing. I feel like he's the best out of the 3 players we've been linked with. I just can't believe when you think about Aston Villa's season, it's sort of took to deadline day for us to sign loads of players. And with all that commotion around Emi Martinez, whether he's going to leave or is he going to stay, and obviously he's stayed now, I just don't know, because it is really embarrassing for him, because at the end of last season he was crying on the pitch, wasn't he, saying goodbye to the Aston Villa fans, and he didn't get his move to Manchester United or whoever else. But it was really a whole weird situation. Hopefully now Unai Emery can sort of move past that and sort of bring him back into the fold, because he's an excellent goalkeeper. But moving back over to Harvey Elliott just for a second, I'm going to put this in unbelievable, Jeff, okay? For me, one of the best signings of the window. Obviously, we signed 3 players on deadline day, and this is what Aston Villa actually need, don't they? They need a replacement for Leon Bailey on that right-hand side. And when you think about that front 4 for Aston Villa now, having Harvey Elliott, Jadon Sancho, Morgan Rogers, and Ollie Watkins in there, absolutely amazing players to sort of have in your front 4, have in your attack. And I can't believe we've signed some of those players in there. I don't know if they'll all play together, I'm not too sure. Aston Villa and Unai Emery will be that expensive in that sort of attacking fold, I'm not too sure. Will I might have Youri Tielemans playing that number 10 role, I'm not too sure as well. It definitely has added that much needed squad depth, because we've been having so many youngsters on the bench recently, haven't we? We had like 4 youngsters on the bench, and I'm pretty sure we had like 1 or 2 youngsters come on against Crystal Palace, and they look a little bit office, don't they? Okay, moving over to the last player on this list, we've got Alexander Isak moving to Liverpool for a record transfer fee of 130 million, okay? Now, for me, This is absolutely incredible stuff. We have not seen a transfer window like this from Liverpool ever in the Premier League, have we? They finally got their star striker over the line in Alexander Isak. Now, for me, he's one of the best strikers in the Premier League, one of the best strikers in world football, isn't he? So at the moment, when you think about Liverpool's attacking options, it's absolutely amazing. I can't believe it. When you think about the likes of Hugo Ekitike, I was saying this a few weeks ago, I didn't think they needed Alexander Isak because Hugo Ekitike has had such a strong start to the season, scoring 3 goals in 3 games, something like that. So for me, signing Alexander Isak now is just a bit of a cheat code. It's very, very likely that they're going to pretty much win the league now, isn't it? Who's going to catch up to Liverpool this season? Don't get me wrong, I feel like their attack is perfect. It's just whether or not their defence can sort of be stable at the back because they've had so many, new fullbacks. I don't know whether their fullbacks can sort of adapt to the style of play that Arne Slot wants to sort of adapt to their team, if you like, sort of set for their team, if you like. But moving back over to Alexander Isak, he's exactly what Liverpool need, isn't he, in abundance. He's got the pace, he's got the power, he's got the height, he's got the ability to beat his man, his finishing ability as well is probably the best attribute of the lot, really, isn't it, for Alexander Isak? And for me, I really do feel like he's going to come in and score 20, 25 league goals this season. Don't get me wrong, I don't like the way he sort of forced himself out of Newcastle, but you can sort of say that sort of happened with every other sort of player, hasn't it, these days anyway. If you think about, if you compare him to like Wizza and how he sort of wanted to force himself out of Brentford, it's sort of a similar situation, isn't it? So you can't really say one thing to one player and then another thing to another player that you've just signed. Okay, it's very similar, that's all I'm saying. But at the end of the day, I'm going to put Alexander Isak in Unbelievable Jeff just because he's one of the best strikers in world football, and signing for 130 million, yes, they've probably overpaid for him, but at the end of the day, when players are going for 100 plus million, 130 million, okay, for Alexander Isak, one of the best strikers in the league, even though it's very, very expensive, even though it's a lot of money, it does probably sound about right. Just to get that player over the line, just to get him on board for the season, on board for, I want to say, 3 or 4 more years until he probably, wants to force his way out to like a Real Madrid. Again, we'll have to wait and see if that does happen in the future or not. But either way, I really do feel like this completes Liverpool's side, doesn't it? And I do feel like they're going to pretty much win the Premier League this season. I don't know whether Arsenal can sort of create enough chances to even, get those goals, to win those 3 points, to get you like catching up to, Liverpool and sort of overtake them as well. I'm not too sure, because you think about them last season, they was excellent, and you think about them this season, they're going to be 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps ahead of everybody else in the league now, just because of how that terrifying attack is. That's just the way it goes, I feel like. But yeah, let's end the video with some questions, okay? How do you feel about Alexander Isak joining Liverpool? How do you feel about Harvey Elliott joining Aston Villa? Do you feel like it's a great deal? Obviously, they've got a buyback option in there, Liverpool, don't they? Even if he does well at Aston Villa, Liverpool might end up signing him again. But either way, if that's the only way Aston Villa can sort of structure the deal, I feel like it'll be an overall success for the club, isn't it? Because that's what they need in the short term, really. They need another attacking option in there, and I feel like Harvey Elliott is the right man to do the job. How would you feel about Jadon Sancho joining Aston Villa? How would you feel about Pierre Hippier joining Arsenal? Does it add that much squad depth to the centre-back position? But yeah, before that, as always, please like, comment, subscribe. It's very much appreciated. It goes a long way in helping me build a small community on my channel. We've recently just hit 216 subscribers. And yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you, really. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. I'll see you again in the next one. Peace out.